Hello and welcome to Farm Connections. I'm your host, Dan Hoffman. Today on Farm Connections, we travel to Spring Valley, Minnesota and meet with Les Radcliffe. Les is going to tell us all about the 35th Annual Root River Antique Engine and Tractor Show. Kent Thiesse informs about one of the cornerstones of the Farm Bill, commodity programs and crop insurance. And then we meet with garden tractor innovator Matt Larson to find out more about his super modified garden tractors and his team of like-minded enthusiasts. All here today on Farm Connections.
Welcome to Farm Connections with your host, Dan Hoffman.
Farm Connections, sponsored by Alcorn Clean Fuel, a farmer-owned cooperative in Claremont, Minnesota, produces ethanol, high-protein livestock feed, and corn oil, and beverage-grade carbon dioxide for resale to benefit its members and their communities. Absolute Energy, a locally owned facility, produces 115 million gallons of ethanol annually, proudly supporting local economies in Iowa and Minnesota. Absolute Energy, adding value to the neighborhood. The Agricultural Utilization Research Institute, collaborating with businesses and entrepreneurs to foster long-term economic benefit for Minnesota through value-added agricultural products. You can learn more at auri.org. Kahn Tile Supply, Leroy, Minnesota and New Hampton, Iowa, since 1985, supplying the market with field drain tile products, dual wall, metal culverts, septic systems, PVC, and plumbing supplies.
Welcome back to Farm Connections. We're so happy you joined us. We're at the 35th Annual Antique Engine and Tractor Show, somewhere between Spring Valley and Racine, Minnesota. And with me is the Association President, Les Radcliffe, and he's going to tell us all about it. Les, thanks so much for joining us.
Glad to be able to be part of it.
Well, this is fascinating. We've got people, we've got food, we've got tractors, we've got antiques. What makes this happen?
People. It takes our club to be able to put it on, and it takes the public to come and view what we do.
Well, what's the official name of this association?
Root River Antique Historical Power Association. Quite a mouthful, isn't it? And ink on the end.
Ink on the end. What drives you to do this? You've been the chairman, the executive officer for a number of years. It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, but it's just something I kind of have a passion for. And you know, when I was a little kid, my folks would go back to Nebraska to my mom's home farm, and they had a grove of trees and a whole bunch of old machinery left piled away in there that didn't make the World War II iron drive, and I'd play on it and just always had an interest in it.
Well, you bring up a good point. Much of our old iron did go to fuel the war in terms of the scrap iron went to melting down and being ammunition and things that our allies could use in the war, right?
That is correct.
So that makes this even more meaningful if you've restored a piece of history and it's preserved. How do you feel about that?
I'm just happy to be a part of it, just happy to allow the future generations to be able to see how farming and how commercial enterprises actually worked back in those earlier years. And our farmstead depicts the 1930s, which was actually the transition between horsepower and tractor power. And so from the 30s, still there was a lot of horses used, and then tractors started to become popular, and it was those transition years. And so we picked that as our theme for our farmstead.
You mentioned people, Les, and that's important to putting something this huge and this significant on in our community. How do the committees function and what keeps them going forward just like you?
Well, I think it just has to be that passion that I have. If you just don't have an interest, you're maybe going to come and watch, but you're not going to put the time in to restore the equipment and keep it running and stage the demonstrations. And you know, we have key people in our club that kind of head up the different areas that we have, but they got to rely on their friends and family and acquaintances that also have an interest in that area to help them, because there's really nothing here that's a one-person job. It's a group effort, it's a community effort to pull it off.
A lot of teamwork and a lot of leadership. So as we travel around the showgrounds, we see lots of food stands and some good quality food. And I see local people from your community, people that you've done business with, maybe gone to worship with and those things, they come together here. Tell us how that works. Why is it important to have a food stand, first off, at a show like this? And second, what do they do with the proceeds?
Well, people always want to eat, and we all need to eat and drink, so to have the food stands just keeps the people here. If we didn't have the stands, they'd probably come for a little bit, get hungry and leave and not come back. And so what we've done, because we're a little short of help, we've teamed with the Grand Meadow Lions. And so the Grand Meadow Lions run our food stands for us. And so that involves all of them, and some of those people are also members of our club, but the majority really aren't members of our club, but they come and pitch in and make the weekend work for us.
Well, KSMQ and I had breakfast at the Lions breakfast stand this morning. Really good stuff. We're in the shade, there's a roof, wonderful food. In fact, some of the best sausage I've ever had in my life. It's a neat thing.
You know, I actually bring that up. I actually had a phone call last night by a guy that apparently was here yesterday, and he was at the food stand and the gals were smiling at him and the food was great, and he wanted me to know as president that it was great and he was coming back today to have some more food.
That's a neat tribute.
That is a neat tribute.
And that doesn't come without a lot of work from you and the committee and everybody here at the show. You talked about food. All around us is agriculture. We go outside the showgrounds, it's all about agriculture. We come to the showgrounds, it's tractors, it's horses, it's people, the people that grow our food. So it's really a celebration of that, isn't it?
It is a celebration of agriculture in all respects. You talked about the sausage, that comes from Barsches. They have a hog raising operation. And you know, they buy feed from all the different farmers around the area to feed those hogs. And then we have the different fertilizer plants and so on that support it all. So it is a really big community of effort that goes in to produce that food. And what we do at the showgrounds is actually try to show historically how that was done years ago compared to how it's done today.
You've also got here an opportunity for some people to sell their wares or show things, the flea market and other things. Can you elaborate on how that works?
Well, we've just provided an outdoor area for outdoor vendors that have things of the past to sell for collectors, things that they might make out of some of these things for decoration. And then we have an indoor building that has more of the clothing kind of things and maybe some of the items that can't be outside. So we call it the indoor vendor shed versus the outdoor vendors. And then we have, back in the memory lane, we have a group that makes lefse on the old wood cook stoves, and they actually told me yesterday they prefer to use corn cobs to heat, so they got corn cobs from over in the corn shelling operation. So just another example of how years ago nothing went to waste.
Sustainable.
Sustainable.
We've got farms in this area that have been farming for 150 years or so. That's sustainable.
Yes, it is.
Well, it's wonderful. If you look forward, let's go out 10 years. You've given some good leadership so far. What would your hope be that this show and this association would be like in about 10 years?
Well, we just hope that it continues to the future, and we hope that younger people are willing to come and join the club and participate in demonstrating these things. And we hope that the young people, as they come, respect the forefathers that 35 years ago really started this club and got it going, and we realize that we all remember what we remember from our childhood. And of course, steam engines and oil pulls and those kinds of tractors, a lot of those people that remember those from their childhood, they've already passed away. And so now, what we used to think two-cylinder John Deere tractors were really the thing, and that's more my generation. Now the younger people, they're 30-20s, 40-20s, and even newer than that now is starting to be collectible. So it's a change, but we hope that the young people can respect all of those really old things and keep that as well as the newer things, because they also become history.
Tremendous. Thanks for your leadership and thanks for what you do here, Les.
Even though there's still about a year and a half remaining on the current Farm Bill, discussions have already been ongoing for nearly a year on developing the next Farm Bill. The current Farm Bill, known as the Agricultural Act of 2014, expires on September 30th, 2018, and will include coverage for the 2018 crop year. Commodity programs and crop insurance coverage for most common grain crops in the upper Midwest have been a cornerstone of farm bills for decades. About 14% of the funding in the current Farm Bill was targeted for farm commodity and crop insurance programs. The current Farm Bill gave eligible crop producers the choice between the county-based Ag Risk Coverage or ARC County program and the Price Loss Coverage or PLC program for corn, wheat, soybeans, and other eligible crops. The ARC County program is based on actual county crop yields and national average crop prices for a given year, while the PLC program payments are based on national average crop prices for a given year. Over 95% of the corn and soybean acres in the upper Midwest are enrolled in the ARC County program. The dairy and sugar support programs are also covered under the commodity title of the farm program. Over the years, there have been many different commodity programs for eligible producers. This has included deficiency payments, LDPs, and direct payments to eligible producers. The 1996 Farm Bill resulted in a major shift in farm policy by adding guaranteed direct payments, eliminating set-aside acres for program participation, and adding soybeans and oilseeds as eligible farm program crops. The direct payments, which cost the federal government about $5 billion a year, were eliminated after 2013. The Farm Bill also includes provisions and funding for the federal crop insurance program, which remains highly popular with most Midwestern farm operators. Many producers rely on revenue protection crop insurance as their primary risk management tool for the large investment that they have in crop production each year. Several farm organizations and some members of Congress are calling for changes and modifications to the current commodity title in the Farm Bill, as well as to some current crop insurance provisions. There has been a push by some members of Congress to try to finalize a new Farm Bill by the end of 2017 in order to avoid mixing the passing of a Farm Bill with election year politics during 2018. However, completion of a new Farm Bill is more likely to occur sometime in 2018 or early 2019. It's very important for Congress to focus on the critical issues and challenges currently facing farm operators in rural communities as they consider potential provisions in the next Farm Bill. That's all for today. We'll be back next time with another report.
The 35th annual Antique Tractor and Engine Show near Root River between Spring Valley and Racine, Minnesota. And with me is Matt Larson from LeSueur. Matt, you're into something kind of neat.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
What is it and why do you do it?
We do super modified garden tractor pulling. And so our tractors look like garden tractors, but they have snowmobile engines in them.
Snowmobile engines?
Snowmobile engines.
Why?
Because it's fun and it's fast.
Well, you didn't start doing this today. You've been doing it for a while, right?
Yep, we've been doing this 18 years now.
18 years.
Yep.
How'd you start?
About 25 years ago, probably, I went to a fair with my grandpa and saw it, and I said, someday I want to do that. I was probably about 15 at the time, and it was fun, and I just never got it out of my head. And then I went to a car show one time, and somebody had one there, and I asked him how to get started. And he said, I know there's a tractor for sale not too far from you. And so I went and made a deal with the guy, and that's how it all started.
And the first tractor you bought is the one right behind us?
Yep, the John Deere. And when I bought that, it had a motorcycle engine in it. It was about 2 feet shorter, quite a bit underpowered for the class. Is the reason the guy that was selling it. But we had fun. We learned a lot in the first 5 years, and then we switched to snowmobile motors and never looked back.
So what you're telling me, this isn't really a stock lawnmower, it's modified.
No, and even the red one over there that my daughters drive is in the stock class. But I always like the line from Days of Thunder, there's nothing stock about a stock car, and there's nothing stock about a stock garden tractor.
I heard you mention daughter. Tell me about the family involvement. Tara's second oldest daughter.
Yep,
The oldest,
Tara will be 14 and Abby just turned 18.
18.
Yep.
And is your wife involved in this as well?
She comes along and helps with registration, make sure we eat and keep hydrated.
Nice.
Yep.
And any extended family involved?
My dad, the Oliver we built is my dad's tractor. We built that together about 5 years ago. One of the clubs we pull with was having trouble getting numbers, and we said, you know, we could build another tractor, so we built another one, and the Oliver came from that.
Well, it sounds like a neat family activity.
Yep, it is.
So I know you said you started about 18 years ago, but you know there must have been something before that that spurred some kind of interest in your skills. Not just everybody can do this. What kinds of things led you into that?
I would say it probably started one time we went to the Le Sueur County Pioneer Power, which is a lot like the Root River Festival they have here, and I saw the antique tractors, and my life changed that day when I got involved with tractors. And about that same time, I was 15, my dad and I went to North Dakota and bought a Oliver 70 tractor that we restored. I still have that tractor today, and learned a lot. We rebuilt that from the ground up, painted it.
So did you take any classes in high school or any involvement there that helped you?
Yep, I took every shop class that I could take, you know, almost any egg class. I learned an awful lot, and we use those skills every day.
And now I believe you're into the diesel mechanics?
I went to college to be a diesel mechanic, but I'm now working as an engineer for Winco Generators in La Center, Minnesota. And I use the practical knowledge that I learned as a diesel mechanic to design better products and put real world skills and not put the oil filter where the mechanic can't get to it, and you know, make sure that the corners are rounded so when the mechanic has to go inside there and work, he doesn't get cuts and such.
Did you have any involvement in FFA and egg in high school?
Yep, I was in FFA. I actually started doing contests probably when I was in 7th grade. My dad was my advisor until I was a senior, and then I got a new advisor, but I did all contests, and then when I went to college I was in PAS, and I did the mechanics contest, and I took 3rd in the nation in the the John Deere PAS mechanics contest.
Awesome.
With my partner.
PAS is, of course, a national post-secondary agricultural students organization.
Yep.
And the contest knit pretty well with what you did in FFA.
Yeah, yep. And we learned a lot, you know, rebuilding engines, welding, all that kind of stuff.
Well, Mr. Larson was your advisor till your senior year, is that
Yep.
what you said?
Yep.
And that was in Belle Plaine?
Belle Plaine, yep.
Fantastic. So those roots of agriculture and FFA in high school and the PAS really led to being able to use those skills here?
We use them every day working on these. And math, and you know, you have to check over the tractor after every event, make sure all the nuts and bolts are tight, there's no cracks. If you find a crack in the frame, you've got to clean it, weld it, know how to do all that and do it so it's not going to come back, you know.
Well, with that kind of experience and background, do other people come to you and ask for advice when they're making or designing things at your company?
All the time. All the time at my company and in my shop at home. I build parts for other competitors. The wheel horses, like I read one here, have a cast iron rear hub that is notorious for breaking, and I build a steel one that I sell to fellow competitors so that they can not break on the track.
Aftermarket.
Yep.
What's the long-term goal of this? I mean, it's something you do until you're 90 or 100 years of age?
Until I can't do it anymore, until I'm not having fun. If we weren't having fun, we wouldn't do it. That's the only reason we do this, is to have fun. Nobody doing this is making money. We do it for the fun and the people that we meet. I've pulled all over the country. I've been to Kentucky a couple times. I've been to Iowa, North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and I've got a huge extended family. I pulled in Missouri, and from all over the country, and it's fun. We went to Kentucky in February, and everybody went to the facility, dropped off their trailers, went back to the hotel, and we were sitting out eating pizza in the parking lot and just hanging out and having fun.
Matt, have you won any awards in all those travels and those competitions?
The John Deere is, we call the John Deere Always Something, and that's a 2-time national champion in Iowa at the Prairie Pullers Spring Shootout. We won the 1250 class in 2013, and we won the 1300 Open class in 2014. And then the Oliver, which is called Oliver Twist, last spring I took 2nd at the in the 1250 class down there, and then Always Something was 5th. And there's usually at least 30 tractors, probably sometimes 40 tractors in those classes. So if you win there, you're doing well.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So you mentioned the girls are moving from the smaller tractors to the big one. Are they kind of like nudging you off the seat, or how does this go?
They're trying to. It's really tough because I do enjoy driving, but it's fun to watch the girls. I get a little bit nervous because, when they pull in the stock tractor, you're going 4.5 to 5 miles an hour. When we pull these super mods, we're pushing over 20 miles an hour.
You got some speed.
You have to be able to think fast, and things can go bad in a hurry. Luckily, the clubs that we pull with are extremely safety conscious and have a very, very good safety record.
What's next? What's going to happen with this hobby of yours?
Well, I think we talked about retiring our stock tractor last year. My daughter Tara said, I think I want to drive it one more year. So we kept it around, and I think that we'll be building a V8 mini rod in the next 3 or 4 years. I think it's going to take me 2 years to build it, but we'll have those here tonight as well. And so that's basically a V8 car engine up to 410 cubic inches. You put a transmission on it, hook it right to the rear end, put a seat on top of the rear end, and hold on.
Hold on is right.
Yep.
Do you have any advice for others that are beginning to think, I'd like to do that as well?
The first thing that we tell everybody is to get a rule book, and if you're going to build a tractor, build within the rules. It's no fun to spend a whole winter working on a tractor and being so excited about it and showing up and saying it doesn't fit anybody's rules. And there's all the websites have contact people on them, call them and talk to them. Go to a poll, talk to the drivers. All of our pits are open, and the drivers, we love to talk about our tractors. Come talk to us, make a friend, and more than likely we'll help you out. We may even know where there's parts your tractors start with.
Now, why are the rules important?
Well, the rules keep everything fair. And with the super mod class, a couple years ago we were down at that national poll in Iowa, and there was a guy from Minnesota, More Photos, and he came, I believe it was him, and took pictures, and he could not believe the diversity in the class. In the super mod class, you can run a snowmobile engine, you can run a motorcycle engine, you can run 2 snowmobile engines.
Come on.
There's guys that run multiple, if you can think of it and it fits within the rules, you can do it. And there's so much diversity, and everybody gets along. We're all there to have fun. There's rarely arguments.
Have you ever seen where somebody's worked in this industry pulling and they've taken those skills and then got a job because of it?
Well, I know there's a couple companies that have started that way. There's people who build mostly stock, and for like NQS stuff, they build parts. They've got their own websites and machine shops, and guys have started businesses that way. I'm sure that people have gotten jobs as well,
But complete businesses have started because of it.
Yep. I can think of 3 of them off the top of my head.
Well, good luck for the rest of the season, and thanks for joining us on Farm Connections.
Thank you for having me.
Stay tuned for more on Farm Connections.
A group of pork producers from Sonora, Mexico were in Minnesota recently learning about the use of DDGs in livestock feed. There's been news recently about the potential for lower fiber, higher protein DDG that could be exciting for the corn industry and for pork and poultry producers. The group stopped at the Bill Drager farm near Minnesota Lake. Bill has been involved with DDG research on the farm developed by ICM and Corn Plus ethanol in Winnebago.
The oil and the protein come out of that process unfermented, and what's left in the DDG then is a higher concentration of protein. So what we have coming from Winnebago now is a high protein DDG without the fiber in it. So that makes it a little bit easier to formulate diets with DDG without the fiber. Without fiber, that's typically a limiting factor in monogastric animals.
The new high-protein DDGs could be exciting for the pork industry here and in Mexico, and it could mean a bigger market for that ethanol byproduct.
Well, Mexico right now is the biggest importer of DDGs. We're currently around 2 million metric tons a year, okay? So, I mean, DDGs are doing very well in Mexico, but they're mainly used with the cattle feeders, no? We want now the poultry and the swine end users to start using them also.
If research being done right on this farm on DDGs proves out, it could become an even more important feed source for the pork industry in the future. A group from Mexico is here today to learn more about it. It could mean more exports to that country and more feed usage in the years ahead. This is Lynn Kettleson reporting.
Innovation inspires us to dream bigger and reach for greater heights. It motivates us to follow through on our dreams, and it drives our daily lives. Ideas, no matter how big or small, compel us to pursue new avenues and outlooks. Whether as a means to provide comfort and value to our families and businesses or entertainment for our neighbors, innovation pushes us all towards where we need to be. I'm Dan Hoffman. Thank you for joining us on Farm Connections.
Funding for this program is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.